The rain came down in sheets that November evening in 1878, turning the dirt streets of Redemption Creek into rivers of mud. Emma Thornton stood outside the general store, her trembling fingers wrapped around the only thing of value she had left, her grandmother's gold locket. Inside, warmth and light beckoned, along with the smell of fresh bread that made her hollow stomach clench with desperate hunger. She hadn't eaten in 3 days, not since she'd fled her father's ranch in the dead of night, running from the wedding he'd arranged to settle his gambling debts. The bruises on her arms had faded to yellow-green shadows beneath her soaked sleeves, but the fear still lived fresh in her chest. Better to starve free than live as Harold Grimshaw's property. The man was 20 years her senior and had buried 2 wives already under circumstances the town refused to examine too closely. Before you continue with Emma's journey, I'd love to ask you to take a moment to subscribe to the From Wild West channel and leave a like on this video. It truly means the world to us and motivates us to bring you more quality stories like this one. Your support helps keep these tales alive. Thank you so much. Emma pushed open the store door, the bell chiming overhead. The proprietor, Mr. Henderson, looked up from his ledger, his expression immediately hardening when he saw her bedraggled state. "We don't give credit, miss," he said before she could speak. "I'm not asking for credit." Emma stepped forward, water pooling at her feet. "I have this." She held out the locket, its gold surface catching the lamplight. "It's real gold, worth more than what I'm asking. I just need some bread, maybe some jerky, enough for a few days." Henderson reached for the locket, but a larger hand intercepted it. Emma gasped, spinning to find a man standing so close she could smell leather and sage on him. He was tall, broad-shouldered, with eyes the color of storm clouds and dark hair that curled slightly at his collar. A scar cut through his left eyebrow, giving him a dangerous look that made her step back instinctively. "This belonged to someone who loved you," the stranger said, his voice low and rough as gravel. His fingers closed around the locket, but he didn't take it from her. Instead, he pressed it back into her palm, folding her fingers over it. "Gold isn't what you need here. You need a place to get dry and a decent meal." Emma's throat tightened. "I can't accept charity." "Then don't." He turned to Henderson. "Put her supplies on my account, and add whatever else a woman might need for a hard journey." His gaze returned to Emma, and something in those gray eyes made her chest ache. Recognition, maybe, of one wounded soul seeing another. "Can you cook?" Yes." "Then you'll work. I need someone at the ranch who can make food fit to eat. My foreman's been burning everything for months, and the men are near rebellion." The corner of his mouth lifted in something that might have been a smile under different circumstances. "Name's Caleb Stone. I run the Double S Ranch about 8 miles north of here." "Emma Thornton." Her voice came out barely above a whisper. "Well, Miss Thornton, you've got 2 choices. You can stay here in town where whoever you're running from will find you eventually, or you can come work for me, where you'll have a roof, 3 meals, and a locked door of your own." He tilted his head, studying her with an intensity that should have frightened her, but somehow didn't. "I see a woman worth saving. Question is, do you?" Emma looked down at the locket in her hand, then back at this stranger who'd appeared like something out of a fever dream. Every instinct she'd honed over 24 years of surviving her father's rages told her to be wary, to trust no man. But standing in her wet dress with hunger gnawing at her insides and nowhere else to turn, What choice did she have? How do I know you're not worse than what I'm running from? Caleb's expression darkened. You don't. But I'm giving you my word, and in this territory, a man's word is all that matters. You'll have your own quarters in the main house. Door locks from the inside. Any man on my ranch touches you without permission, he answers to me. He paused, and when he spoke again, his voice carried the weight of iron. I'll die before I let anyone hurt you on my land. Something in Emma's chest loosened. She nodded once, sharp. All right. The ride to the Double S took nearly 2 hours through the pelting rain. Caleb had given Emma his oilskin coat, which swallowed her small frame, and settled her on his horse in front of him. She could feel the solid warmth of his chest against her back, his arms bracketing her as he held the reins. He didn't speak during the journey, but once when she swayed with exhaustion, his arm tightened around her waist, steadying her. Almost there, he murmured against her ear. Stay with me. The ranch house materialized through the rain like a miracle, a sturdy 2-story structure with a wide porch and golden light spilling from the windows. Smoke curled from the chimney, and Emma could see the dark shapes of outbuildings scattered around the property. Caleb dismounted first, then reached up to lift her down. His hand spanned her waist completely, and he held her a moment longer than necessary when her knees buckled. "When's the last time you slept?" he asked. "I don't remember." His jaw tightened. "Come on." Inside, the house was warm and simply furnished but clean. A large stone fireplace dominated one wall of the main room, and Emma could see a kitchen area beyond. Caleb guided her to a chair by the fire, then disappeared upstairs. He returned with a thick quilt that he wrapped around her shoulders. "Your room's the second door on the left," he said. "There's a bed, a washstand, and that lock I promised. But first, you need food." He moved into the kitchen with surprising efficiency for a man his size, and within minutes, the smell of frying bacon and eggs filled the air. Emma watched him work, her mind struggling to process this turn of fortune. Men didn't behave like this. Men took and demanded and hurt. They didn't give quilts and cook meals and promise safety. Her fingers tightened on the locket still clutched in her hand. Caleb set a plate in front of her. Eggs, bacon, thick slices of bread with butter. "Eat slow," he warned. "Your stomach's not used to it." She obeyed, though every instinct screamed to devour the food. He sat across from her with his own plate, and they ate in silence, broken only by the fire's crackle and the rain's steady drum on the roof. "Why?" Emma finally asked. "Why help me?" Caleb set down his fork, his gaze distant. 3 years ago, my wife Sarah died giving birth to our son. The baby died too." His voice remained steady, but Emma saw the muscle jump in his jaw. "I couldn't save them, couldn't do a damn thing but watch them slip away." He looked at her then, and the raw pain in his eyes stole her breath. "Maybe I can't change what happened to them, but I can help someone who needs it now." "That answer enough for you?" Emma nodded, unable to speak past the lump in her throat. The days that followed fell into an unexpected rhythm. Emma woke before dawn to prepare breakfast for Caleb and his 4 ranch hands, weathered men who tipped their hats and called her ma'am with genuine respect. She cooked, cleaned, and gradually began to feel the constant knot of fear in her chest loosen. Caleb was true to his word. Her door locked, no one bothered her, and slowly, very slowly, she began to sleep through the night without jerking awake at every sound. Caleb himself remained politely distant, but Emma found herself watching him. The way he moved with easy confidence, his hands gentle with the horses, but capable of wielding an axe to split wood like it was nothing. The rare smiles he gave when one of the hands told a joke at dinner, the way his eyes tracked her across the room as if making sure she was real and still there. 2 weeks after her arrival, she found him in the barn, doctoring a horse with a cut leg. Emma approached slowly, announcing her presence before she got too close. She'd learned that sudden movements made him tense, as if he too carried wounds that hadn't fully healed. "How bad is it?" she asked. "Not too bad, just needs cleaning and wrapping." He glanced up at her. "You're not scared of horses, are you?" "No, my mother taught me to ride when I was young. Before she—" Emma stopped. "Before she what?" "Before my father's drinking got worse and he sold her favorite mare." Emma came closer, running her hand down the horse's neck. The mare nickered softly. "He sold a lot of things over the years." Caleb's hands stilled on the bandage. "Is that why you ran? His debts?" Emma nodded. "He gambled away everything, including me. Arranged a marriage to Harold Grimshaw to clear what he owed." She could feel Caleb's gaze on her, but couldn't meet it. "Harold's got a reputation. Both his previous wives died mysteriously. I wouldn't. You won't." Caleb's voice cut through her rising panic. "You're not property, Emma. You're a person, and no one's taking you anywhere you don't want to go." She finally looked at him and found his expression fierce, protective in a way that made her heart stutter. "You barely know me." "I know enough." He finished tying off the bandage and stood, moving closer. Not touching, but close enough that she could feel the heat radiating from him. "I know you're brave. You left everything rather than submit to cruelty. I know you're proud. You insisted on working instead of accepting help. And I know that whoever hurt you before was a fool who couldn't see what he had." Emma's breath caught. "Caleb, I'm not asking for anything," he said quickly. "Just want you to know you're safe here, for as long as you need." But Emma was beginning to realize that safety wasn't the only thing she was finding at the Double S. The first frost came in late November, painting the prairie grass white and bringing a bitter wind down from the mountains. Emma woke to find Caleb's forge burning bright in the pre-dawn darkness. She wrapped a shawl around her shoulders and brought him coffee, finding him hammering a piece of iron into shape. "You're up early," she said, offering the mug. He accepted it with a grateful nod. "Making new hinges for the barn door. Old ones are about to give out." He took a long drink, then set the mug aside. "How are you settling in?" "Better than I expected." Emma watched the sparks fly as he returned to his work. "I keep waiting for something to go wrong. Maybe nothing will. Things always go wrong." Caleb set down his hammer and turned to face her fully. "Emma, you're allowed to hope. I know hope feels dangerous when you've been disappointed before, but you can't live constantly braced for disaster." "Easy for you to say, is it?" His voice remained gentle but firm. "I lost everything that mattered to me. Took me 2 years before I could even say their names out loud. Sarah and James." He swallowed hard. "Every day I wake up, and for a second, I forget they're gone. Then I remember, and it's like losing them all over again." Emma stepped closer, drawn by the rawness in his voice. "I'm sorry. Just understand that I know about living with ghosts." He reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away, and tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. "But you're not a ghost, Emma. You're real and alive, and you deserve more than just surviving." His touch sent warmth cascading through her, and for the first time in her life, Emma didn't flinch away from a man's hand. Instead, she leaned into it slightly, letting herself have this one moment of comfort. Winter deepened, and with it came a growing closeness between Emma and Caleb. He taught her to shoot, standing behind her to adjust her stance, his hands steady on her arms as he showed her how to sight down the barrel. "Breathe," he murmured, his breath warm against her ear. "Slow and steady. Don't fight the recoil. Move with it." Emma fired, hitting the target dead center. She spun, grinning, and found Caleb smiling back, a real smile that transformed his usually serious face. "Natural shot," he said. "Remind me never to make you angry." "Too late for that. You burned the biscuits last Tuesday." He laughed, the sound rich and genuine, and Emma felt something shift inside her chest. Something warm and terrifying and wonderful all at once. They fell into easy conversation during evening meals, sharing stories of their pasts. Emma learned that Caleb had built the ranch from nothing, that he'd fought in the war and carried scars from it, some visible, most not. He learned that Emma had dreamed of becoming a teacher before her father's decline made such hopes impossible, that she loved reading and missed having books more than almost anything. 3 days later, Caleb came home with a crate full of books he'd ordered from Denver. "For you," he said simply, setting them on the kitchen table. Emma stared at the volumes, novels, poetry, even a few medical texts, and felt tears burn her eyes. "Caleb, this is too much. It's not nearly enough." He caught her hand, his thumb brushing across her knuckles. "You've given this house life again, Emma. Given me a reason to look forward to coming home. Books are a poor trade for that." She looked up at him, this man who'd shown her that kindness wasn't weakness, and protection didn't require possession. "Thank you," she whispered. His fingers tightened on hers. "Emma, He stopped, jaw clenching. "I promised myself I wouldn't do this. Wouldn't let myself feel anything for anyone again. Too dangerous. Too much risk of more loss. But I'm failing spectacularly." He lifted his free hand to cup her face, his touch reverent. "Tell me to stop. Tell me you don't want this, and I'll walk away. I'll never mention it again. But if there's any chance you feel even a fraction of what I'm feeling." Emma rose on her toes and kissed him. It was brief, chaste, but it carried all the words she couldn't yet say. When she pulled back, Caleb's eyes had darkened to smoke. "Emma," he breathed. "I feel it too," she admitted. "I'm terrified, but I feel it." "I'll go slow," he promised, "as slow as you need. And if you ever want me to stop, I know." Emma pressed her palm to his chest, feeling his heart thunder beneath her hand. "I trust you." It was the first time she'd said those words to any man and meant them. Their courtship unfolded with careful deliberation. Caleb courted her like something precious, bringing her wildflowers from the prairie, teaching her to ride properly, sitting beside her in the evening while she read aloud and he carved pieces of wood into small animals. Every touch was asked for, every kiss earned. Emma bloomed under this gentle attention, learning that not all passion came wrapped in violence. One evening in January, as they sat before the fire, Emma found the courage to tell him everything. About her mother's death when she was 12, about her father's rage and the time she'd hidden in the cellar to escape his fists, about the scars that crisscrossed her back from the one time she'd tried to run before, marks left by her father's belt. "I've got too many scars," she whispered, unable to meet Caleb's eyes. Inside and out, Caleb was quiet for a long moment. Then he stood, pulled off his shirt, and turned around. Emma gasped. His back was a map of old wounds, knife cuts, bullet scars, the puckered marks of burns. "War does this," he said roughly. Evil men do this. You think your scars make you less? They make you a survivor, Emma. They're proof you fought and won. He turned back to her, his eyes fierce. I don't see damage when I look at you. I see strength. I see someone who refused to break, even when breaking would have been easier. Emma reached up to touch a scar on his shoulder, her fingers trembling. How do you live with it? The memories. One day at a time. He covered her hand with his. And maybe now, together, together, Emma repeated softly. The word became their talisman, spoken during morning coffee and whispered in the dark when nightmares woke one or both of them. Together, they were stronger than their separate pasts. The danger Emma had been half expecting arrived on a frozen February morning. She was gathering eggs from the chicken coop when she heard horses approaching fast. Her blood went cold when she recognized her father's voice booming across the yard, accompanied by Harold Grimshaw's oily tones. I know she's here, Stone. Hand over my daughter, and there won't be trouble. Emma pressed herself against the coop wall, heart hammering. She could see Caleb emerge from the barn, his stance deceptively relaxed. But she knew him well enough now to recognize the danger in the way he held himself. There's no one here who belongs to you, Thornton, Caleb said, his voice carrying clear in the cold air. The hell there isn't. Emma's my daughter, and I've every right. You have no rights. Caleb moved into the yard's center, and Emma saw his ranch hands emerging from various buildings, forming a loose semicircle behind their boss. And even if you did, I wouldn't hand over a woman who came here seeking refuge from you. Grimshaw dismounted, his thick body moving with surprising speed. The girl's promised to me. Contract's been signed. You're harboring another man's property. Emma's not property. Caleb's voice dropped to something deadly. And she's not leaving unless she chooses to. Then we'll take her. Everything happened at once. Thornton and Grimshaw both drew their pistols. Caleb was faster, his gun clearing leather in a blur. But Emma saw her father's aim swing toward the chicken coop, toward her. No! She burst from her hiding place, running straight at Caleb. The gun fired. Pain exploded through her shoulder, spinning her around. She felt Caleb catch her before she hit the ground, heard his roar of rage, the thunder of more gunshots. Then, darkness. Emma woke to lamplight and pain. She tried to sit up, but gentle hands pressed her back down. Easy, Caleb said. His face hovered above hers, haggard with worry. The bullet went clean through, but you lost a lot of blood. My father. Dead. Grimshaw, too. They drew first, and they won't hurt anyone else. His hand trembled as it cupped her cheek. Emma, you could have died. Why did you run toward me? Because I saw where he was aiming. Emma caught his hand, pressing it to her lips. I couldn't let him hurt you. Caleb made a sound somewhere between a laugh and a sob. You terrifying, magnificent woman. You scared 10 years off my life. Sorry, she whispered. Don't be sorry. Be here. Be alive. He leaned down, pressing his forehead to hers. I can't lose you, Emma. I won't survive losing you. You won't have to. Emma pulled him closer, despite the pain in her shoulder. I'm not going anywhere. We're together, remember? Together, he agreed roughly, and kissed her with all the fear and relief and love he'd been holding back. Emma's recovery took weeks. Caleb barely left her side, sleeping in a chair by her bed, changing her bandages with gentle efficiency, reading to her when the pain kept her awake. The ranch hands brought offerings, carved figures, wildflower sketches, even a badly knitted scarf. Emma realized with wonder that she'd found more than refuge at the Double S. She'd found family. When she was finally able to sit up without dizziness, Caleb carried her downstairs and settled her in the chair by the fire, the quilt tucked around her. "I have something to ask you," he said, kneeling beside her chair. "And you can say no. I need you to know that. You can say no, and nothing changes. You'll still have a home here for as long as you want it." Emma's heart began to race. "Ask me." Caleb pulled a small box from his pocket and opened it to reveal a simple gold band set with a small sapphire. "This was my grandmother's. It's not much, but—" He took a breath. "Emma Thornton, you walked into my life when I'd given up on feeling anything but grief. You brought light back into this house, hope back into my heart. I don't want to survive anymore. I want to live. With you. As your husband, if you'll have me." Emma's eyes filled with tears. "Caleb, I know I'm damaged goods," he continued quickly. "I know I'll have bad days where I remember Sarah and the baby, and it'll hurt. But I also know that loving you doesn't diminish what I felt for them. It's different, but just as real. You've taught me that hearts can break and heal again, and still have room for more love. So I'm asking, will you marry me?" "Yes." Emma laughed through her tears. "Yes, yes, 1,000 times yes." Caleb slipped the ring on her finger, then kissed her with a tenderness that made her ache. "I love you," he murmured against her lips. "My brave, stubborn, perfect Emma. I love you too." She pulled back to study his face. This man who'd shown her that strength and gentleness could coexist, that protection didn't require control. "Thank you for seeing me, really seeing me." "Always," he promised. They were married in March, when the prairie began its slow emergence from winter's grip. The ceremony was simple, just the ranch hands, the local preacher, and a few neighbors who'd become friends. Emma wore a dress of deep blue that Caleb had commissioned from the town's seamstress, and wildflowers were woven through her hair. When the preacher asked if anyone objected, there was only supportive silence. When he pronounced them husband and wife, Caleb kissed Emma like she was his salvation, because she was. The reception was held in the barn, decorated with lanterns and more wildflowers. There was fiddle music and dancing, and Emma laughed more than she had in her entire life as Caleb spun her around the floor, his eyes never leaving her face. Later, as the guests began to leave, Emma found herself alone with her husband in the house they now truly shared. Caleb lifted her carefully, mindful of her still healing shoulder, and carried her upstairs to the room that was no longer just his, but theirs. He set her down gently, then stepped back. "Emma, we don't have to." She pressed her fingers to his lips. "I know, but I want to. With you, I want everything." "I'll go slow," he promised, his voice rough with emotion. "Tell me if anything hurts." "It won't." Emma rose on her toes to kiss him, pouring all her trust and love into the gesture. "You could never hurt me." And he didn't. Caleb loved her with a reverence that made her cry, whispering words of devotion against her skin, showing her that intimacy could be beautiful rather than frightening. When they finally came together, Emma felt something inside her heal, some wounded part of her soul that she'd thought might never recover. Afterward, they lay tangled together, her head on his chest, his hand tracing idle patterns on her back over the scars that no longer shamed her. "Together," Caleb murmured, kissing her forehead. "Together," Emma agreed, and meant it with her whole heart. 5 years later, Emma stood on the porch of the Double S, watching the sunset paint the prairie gold and orange. Her hand rested on her swollen belly. She was 8 months pregnant with their second child. Their daughter, Sarah, named for the wife Caleb had lost but would never forget, played in the yard with one of the barn cats. Caleb rode in from the north pasture, dismounting with easy grace despite the long day's work. He swept Sarah up into his arms, making her shriek with laughter, then came to Emma, pressing a kiss to her lips and then to her belly. "How are my girls?" he asked. "We're perfect." And it was true. Emma had found more than survival at the Double S. She'd found purpose, family, and a love that had healed wounds she'd thought permanent. "How is the herd?" "Growing strong." He wrapped his arms around her from behind, his hands covering hers on her stomach. "Just like everything else on this ranch." Emma leaned back against him, watching their daughter play, feeling their unborn son kick beneath their joined hands. She thought about that rain-soaked night 5 years ago when she'd stood in Henderson's general store, prepared to trade her last precious possession for a few days of survival. She'd gotten so much more than that. She'd gotten a life worth living, scars and all. "I love you," she told Caleb, turning her head to meet his eyes. "I love you more," he replied, the old argument that was really a promise. Sarah ran up then, demanding attention, and they both laughed as Caleb scooped her up again. Together, the three of them went inside their home, the home Emma had helped build, the family she'd never thought possible. The ghosts of the past remained, but they no longer haunted. They simply reminded Emma and Caleb how far they'd come and how much they'd survived to reach this moment of hard-won peace. Together. Thank you so much for listening to this story. I'd love to know where you're enjoying this tale from. Are you listening at home, during your commute, or perhaps while working? Please subscribe to the From Wild West channel and share your thoughts in the comments below. What did you think of Emma and Caleb's journey? Your feedback means the world to us.